You may have seen this in the news. Iowa recently signed into law a bill that revokes the civil rights of transgender people across the state. This is the headline from last week in Iowa. Kim Reynolds signs law ending trans civil rights protections. Iowa is the first state to repeal the rights. Basically, what they're doing is gender identity was a protected class under Iowa's anti-discrimination laws. They have crossed that off the list. So gender identity is no longer protected. And as that headline says, Iowa is now the first and only state to take civil rights protections away from a group that had been previously protected. So disgraceful, awful news. Also, it was an expected move because Iowa is currently run by Republicans. And whenever conservatives are in power, their goal is to hurt as many people as possible. That is true at the national level. That is true at the state level. Their only guiding principle is who can we hurt? Which marginalized communities can we go after? How do we make their lives miserable? That's the Republican motto, right? So this bill isn't going to help anybody. It will make some people's lives worse. Despite what Kim Reynolds and some Republicans said, this will not protect women and children as if trans people were trying to hurt them. It doesn't do any of that stuff. Now, the reason I bring this up is because before Kim Reynolds got around to signing this bill, it was being debated in the legislature. And in the state Senate, Democrats did not have the votes to stop the bill, but they did have the ability to speak out about the bill. And one of the people who spoke out is a guy named Senator Tony Bisignano. And one of the things he pointed out, not just that this was a horrible bill, but he called out the Republican Party's hypocrisy given the things they say in public about their faith. He was especially furious at the bill's sponsor, Jason Schultz, for fast-tracking this bill, rejecting all the amendments offered by Democrats, and taking, he used the word pride, taking pride at this rollback of rights, and then never even bothering to defend it during debate. They just wanted to end the debate quickly so they could vote on it and get it in front of Kim Reynolds' hands. And by the way, Jason Schultz, the Republican who did this, also leads the weekly Bible study in the Iowa Capitol. So Republicans like him seem to know this was a bigoted bill. The whole point of it is just let's hurt trans people. And so they passed it as quickly as they could. And their hope is that trans people are such an easy target that their members, by voting on this quickly and getting it over the line quickly, their members would never be punished for sacrificing that group for political gain. And you don't need to say that out loud when the symbolism speaks volumes, right? But this is what Tony Bisignano called him out on. And if you have not heard this speech, I urge you to listen to what this Democrat said about this Republican hypocrisy. It will make your heart grow 3 sizes.
Do you got anything legitimate to talk about why you're screwing people in housing, in employment, in health care and everything else? Can we talk about it over there? You hurt more people than I've ever seen in my political life, and you never speak about it. The only thing you can't wait to do is say the prayer in the morning. Follow what you say. What have they ever done to you? Most of you don't even know somebody who's transgender. You don't even know them, but you hate them. You have to hate them because you cannot do what you're doing today if you didn't. But we'll say a nice prayer to start the day. We always do. And then we proceed to violate people over and over and over again. All they want is their fair shake in life. They want to be like you. They want to live with you. Shame on you. Shame on all of you Christians who want to keep talking about your faith when this is what God talked about. I don't know where you go to church and I don't know what you read. But being a good Christian doesn't take much. Do unto others. Take care of your neighbor. Keep your hand out of other people's pockets. Not much, but you wouldn't know it in this chamber. You wouldn't know it. You'd think that this side of the chamber are the most raging Christians in the world. Shame on you, Christians.
Loved it. I mean, my God, if only other Democrats were as deeply heartfelt, passionate as that guy was about these issues, especially trans rights, where like even Gavin Newsom has shown himself to be an embarrassment. By the way, if you're curious, Tony Bisignano is Catholic, and he spoke with the LGBTQ publication, The Advocate, about this speech. And this is what he said. Bisignano shared that his passion for this issue is deeply personal. His niece, a trans girl, has been his guiding light. She's a sweet person. She's lovely. She's smart. She's talented. And you want to dispel and disgrace and demean these people? I'm sorry. Tony Bisignano, he speaks of himself in the third person, cannot sit in a room in any capacity to see that done to anybody for anything. And then he challenged his colleagues, professed Christianity, noting that Schultz, the bill's sponsor, leads a weekly Bible study. I had to call that out because I'm a Catholic. We're Christians. And I asked him in a speech a few days ago, what Bible do you use at your Bible study? Because I've not seen quotes ever apply to what you're doing here. I mean, keep going. It's great. Love it. There was one other thing he said I wanted to share with you, which again is just nice because it's nice to see a Democrat fighting back without feeling ashamed of defending trans people. I'm tired of this. I'm calling them out. I'm calling them on it. Transgender people need champions and voices and not people voting against people because they're afraid. They need somebody willing to take it on the chin, and I'm willing to do that. Good for him, man. That is amazing. So that's Tony Bisignano. And his speech brought to mind the amazing speech that Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow did a couple years ago. She gave a viral speech. If you haven't seen it, you should Google it, where she called out fellow Christians for going after LGBTQ kids. And they called her a groomer for promoting LGBTQ kids. And she said at the time, this straight white Christian married suburban mom is going to protect kids from being marginalized and targeted because they are not straight, white, and Christian. It also brought to mind Congressman Maxwell Frost, the youngest guy in the Congress, who has repeatedly used his platform to speak out against Christian nationalism. And he has said in subcommittees, I oppose my faith being used to whitewash a racist, violent, and dangerous ideology. So like, yes, more of this. Why can't more Democrats speak out like this? More than anything, Bisignano shows the power that Democrats can have when they stand up for what's right, even when they are outnumbered. Like only one side here has the moral high ground, and they cannot be afraid of making that case, even if some moderate Democrats are all too willing to throw trans people under a bus because it seems politically convenient for them. But this is not new for this guy. Bisignano last year condemned another Republican for attacking President Biden for recognizing Trans Visibility Day. That colleague said Biden's declaration was incompatible with the teachings of Christianity, which it's not. And this is what Bisignano said when his colleague denounced that. Let me share this with you here. Yesterday, Senator Dickey brought hate into the Senate chamber. He criticized President Biden's acknowledgement of Trans Visibility Day, implying it's incompatible with the teachings of Christianity, which we all know it's not. The hate, bigotry, and blatant racism that occurs in this chamber is disgusting, and I am done listening to it. Good for him. And there was one other thing I wanted to show you from this senator, which is that when I was going through his Facebook page, I came across this post, and honestly, I was not expecting to see it. I was kind of surprised, but check this out. This is from like just a couple weeks ago. Today, I met with Jason, a constituent of mine who represents the Iowa Atheists and Freethinkers. Jason brought some concerns around upcoming legislation to my attention, and we discussed the effects it will have across the state. Like, what? Good for him. That's awesome on all counts. And then I was like, wait, I know Jason. I reached out to Jason. I'm like, how was that? Did you know this guy was this cool? And this is what Jason told me. He said Senator Bisignano's speech was representative of how he's been a staunch supporter of equality and human rights for everyone. I thought it was very important that somebody stand up and speak out loud what their experience is like when they see these bills come through. I am proud to say he's the senator that represents my district. And even despite our disagreement on faith, he's willing to say and do things that protect all Iowans. So that is awesome. I'm so happy to see that. Again, this bill that he was fighting against did pass. Kim Reynolds signed it into law. Republicans run the state of Iowa. But if you're gonna lose, you might as well make a big freaking fuss about it, like Al Green did during Donald Trump's speech this week, and not just hold up paddles. And so I appreciate what Bisignano did. All right, what questions we got here? I don't know who this guy is, but I'm tearing up a little bit, right? I know. I have no emotions, and I was doing the exact same thing. And you wish more people like that would be in higher office too, so they could be heard by others. But I will tell you, I'm sure all of you know Congressman Jamie Raskin. Jamie Raskin came to my attention at first for making speeches like that in Maryland when he was part of the state legislature. And I remember thinking at the time, why is this dude in the state legislature? More people need to hear this guy. And eventually he ran for Congress and he won. And now he's one of the leaders of the Democratic Party and the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. So it happens. It can happen. Don't be a dick. I don't know if you're talking to me or Republicans in general, but I agree. Between the war on DEI and higher ed and Iowa removing gender as a protected class, I could hypothetically get in trouble now for having they, them in my email signature at work. It's just stupid. I think in Texas, didn't they fire somebody for doing that? And then like the governor and lieutenant governor celebrated it or something? Just absolutely stupid. They're all for freedom of speech, but if you use the wrong pronoun in your email, you might just have to lose your entire livelihood.